Hello gang, my hair looks bad, I am aware. I closed last night and I came home and I showered and I fell asleep immediately and I woke up like this, so that's what you're gonna get. You're gonna have to deal. Today I'm gonna be making a video about Midori from 1992. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name right, probably not. By the way, this whole thing is like 50 minutes. It's got like a 50-minute runtime, and those are some of the longest 50 minutes I have ever sat through. I took multiple breaks. It's kind of like it's divided by parts. I think there's 3. I didn't write down specifically how many because I completely forgot. But it's like 3 or 4, and it did take me at least 2 days to get through it, and I took breaks like consistently throughout it just because in those 50 minutes it is consistent graphic imagery. So yeah, if you are planning to watch this, one, I watched it on I think archives.org. So it was like a national archives. I watched older movies on there before. It's fine. But it was the only place that I could find an English dubbed, because not dubbed, subbed. I don't speak Japanese and I don't read Japanese, so I did need English subtitles for this. The movie's actually set in 1920. So basically, Midori it's a movie about this girl and her mom dies, and it's really graphic and gross. Her mom's dead body gets eaten by rats and she gets taken away to this like freak show. And I'm going to continue to use the word freak show. I'm not 100% sure what word I'm supposed to use. But throughout the whole thing, I was definitely thinking of American Horror Story. So I associated it like that. It's very, if you've seen American Horror Story Freak Show, Jesus, my hair looks stupid. If you've seen American Horror Story Freak Show, you're gonna get the general gist of this plot outline. She goes to this freak show after her mom dies, and that's when, even though the mom dying, that was very graphic, but this is when the majority of the graphic imagery comes in, because none of the acts are nice to her at all. I wrote down some specific stuff. She joins a carnival, and one of the biggest scenes that I see referenced when talking about this movie is the puppy scene, which basically, if you want to know how cruel these people are to her, not only do they abuse her, but there is a scene where Midori, she has these puppies and she's hiding them. Like, she does not want anyone to find them because she knows that they will hurt them. So she hides them. And one day, this one character, whose name I completely forget, but I will explain who they are in a second. She slash he, I don't know, we're gonna say they, and I'll explain why in a second. They find the puppies and they smash them with their foot, completely stomp them in until they die, and it is all animated in all of its glory. And then they cook them into soup. Midori eats the soup, not realizing that her puppies have been smashed and put into it, and when asked, where did you get the meat? They say it's puppies, and Midori realizes, and her heart is broken and she screams and cries. And this scene is especially heartbreaking because the puppies were like the one escape that Midori had, and it has been completely shattered by the freaks, the acts, whatever I'm supposed to say. And yeah, it's really sad. So this movie definitely feels a tad bit a lot of it transphobic. It was the 90s though, so I'm gonna give it a pass. It's kind of got the like, Corby Day actually made a really great video about this, the predatory trans trope. That's what we're talking about. There is a girl who she looks a lot like Midori. They look, I don't know, okay, explain. They look a lot like Midori, and then there is a specific scene where they're going to the bathroom and Midori realizes that they're biologically male, and they flash her, you know, and they but at the ending, they cut off all their hair and they dress like a boy, and it's like the only time throughout the whole movie that they genuinely look happy. So I don't know if this was one of those things where the person was influenced into dressing this way to become an act. I don't know. It's never made clear whether the person is actually transgender or whether they are just cross-dressing to fit a role that is needed for said carnival. I don't know. So yeah, I clarified that one. Oh, okay, so I did a plot summary. We're gonna read that first. This movie definitely does feel a tad bit racist at times, which is, I'm gonna say that lightly because I am not of Asian descent. I am not Chinese or Japanese. But there were definitely times where, knowing the history that Japan and China had, where I did get a little like, I don't know if this is racist, but it doesn't feel right. Okay, so there's this guy who shows up and he is a dwarf, and we are led to believe, not at first but later, that he's Chinese. And this movie is set in the 20s, as I said. The dwarf has this like crazy act that blows everyone away. He can fit himself inside of a bottle using this magic that like manipulates people's brains so they can see whatever he wants them to see. And Midori, he's like the only person that is nice to her, which is going to develop into something else. And Midori immediately is like, I love you, and they get married. The movie is happy for a second. This is like this is just the puppies repeating themselves. Just to clarify that. One more moment that Midori has happiness that is going to be taken away from her. So yeah. So in the beginning, there is a dude who he rapes Midori. He doesn't have any arms and his head is kind of wrapped up. And he comes back. He abuses her. And the magician like defends Midori and makes her look really big. So he's like afraid of her. The dude who raped her is afraid of her. Again, leading Midori to genuinely trust the magician for one moment of her life. And he defends her, as I said before. And this is, the magician guy makes all of the acts who have been bullying and harassing Midori the whole time, he makes them do what she had to do, like all the chores and crap. And Midori generally looks happy. So later in the movie, the guy who raped her, he apologizes and says that he loves her and he doesn't want to lose her and all that crap. And the magician actually feeds him sand and he dies. Shoves sand, like he kills him. He chokes to death on sand. Midori sees it and is very freaked out. But the magician is like, oh, I did it because I love you. Yup. Dory, she's part of the act now. She works with the magician. She gets offered a role in a movie and she's very excited about it. She wants to do it. She wants to leave the carnival. She's very excited. And the magician is, he traps her in a bottle and then he goes out on stage and takes all of his anger out on the crowd, which is actually one of my favorite scenes because it is beautifully drawn. There is a crazy like body horror-esque scene where he like contorts the audience into really like gross. I was trying to decide whether to say gross or grotesque and it just kind of came out like gross, gargled. Yeah, he contorts them and it's really nasty and beautiful and I loved it. Obviously I didn't love why it was there. The magician's a piece of not good person. But yeah, I thought it was really beautifully drawn. After that, obviously, carnival isn't doing too well, and the boss ends up running off with the money. This is the moment where the person whose gender we are not quite sure about cuts off all their hair and is like, I'm a boy, and looks happy. Midori ends up leaving with the magician, and there's a moment where the magician kind of leaves her. He's going to go buy food and he ends up getting stabbed. You didn't see that, but I went stabbed. I don't know why. I felt I need to act that one out. And Midori is searching for him, but there's this like moment where she's running around and no matter where she goes, she's like stuck in a loop, you know? She can't find him. She doesn't know where he is and she's lost. And then there's a moment where all of the carnies are laughing at her and Midori takes a baseball bat and hits them while they're laughing at her and they kind of like fade away. And Midori cries and the screen goes black. Or goes white. Sorry. The screen goes white while they're fading away and she cries and then the credits. that's how the movie ends. About what I thought about it. So there are a lot of trigger warnings, obviously, if you're planning to watch this movie. You don't have to watch this movie. I don't really, I recommend it kind of, but I also don't heavily. And the reasons being body horror, rape, animal abuse, transphobia, and there did feel like a bit of racism there with the magician, because they're like, oh, he uses evil Chinese magic. And it's like, oh, okay, I don't know about this. I've read into World War II and I don't know about this one. Yeah. But it also is beautifully animated. The art style and the cinematography is beautiful. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, the color palette is amazing, but all of the gore is so disgusting. The gore is disgusting, but it's beautifully drawn. Like, holy shit. I should say, I'm a big fan of, I don't know how to pronounce his name, admittedly. I'm not very good at pronouncing foreign names, but, Junji Ito, I don't know, which I feel like such a poser because his name is literally in my username. I've read all of his shit, but I don't know how to say his name because I suck, as said before. But it definitely did remind me of that, art-wise, but there was definitely something more psychological than what I would refer to as like typical body horror, just because Midori suffers abuse after abuse, and each loss that Midori has just makes the movie even more depressing. And whenever she feels decent, she's broken again. And the ending shows how she can't get out no matter what happens, and no matter what, she's gonna be haunted by these people. And them laughing at her is just them laughing at her inability to escape what she has endured on her, what they have endured on her, and her PTSD that she will develop. And it's very sad. I know a lot of people write it off as torture porn, and it definitely is, don't get me wrong. It is. There are a lot of scenes where it is like, why? Like, why? What was the point of this? But there were definitely moments where it was moving, if I'm going to be completely honest. There are moments that Midori was such just a character that you could really empathize with, and it fucking hurt at multiple points. Anyways, that was it. So I'm gonna say, yeah. I don't know if I recommend this movie or not. I sat through it. I don't know if I'd recommend sitting through it. If you have, it's not, okay, so a lot of people, the fact that it's animated automatically makes it easier to sit through. I don't know if this is just a me thing, but animated gore, like, it doesn't feel real to me, so it's easier to sit through. I don't know if that's weird or not, but yeah, that was it. Make your opinions about whether you want to watch it or not yourself, because I do not want to be responsible for anything. No responsibility for me. Anywho, I hope you have a good day, and goodbye.